Welcome back to the show. If you're just joining us, breaking news is that one person has died. He was electrocuted during the rains when it flooded at the Odona. We've been live there. We've been covering that. A vehicle has also been swept into a big storm drain and a chimota. Right now, we're going to talk about some agitations that we've recorded at the ports, especially because of the changeover from GCnet to ICUMS. And I have here in the studio Samson Awengobeti, is the Executive Secretary of Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Samson, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I also have Norman Akwaheford, who is a PR manager for ICUMS. You'll also be joining us. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So let's take a look and give people a summary of how the changeover has impacted your business and how it has changed the way that you do things, for which reason most of you have been agitating.
All right, very well. I must say good morning to your numerous cherished viewers in the country and beyond the source of Ghana. And good morning to my friend, ICUMS Public Relations Manager, Ivan. Congratulations for your appointment. And then our condolence goes to the lost that we just lost. I see him to be a hero, someone who wake up around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. try to wake up people who were sleeping. And at the end of the day, try to rescue people, and at the end of the day, he rather lost his life. It's pathetic, but I think our condolence goes to such a gentleman and the family as well. I must say, we have come with a lot of issues, and it has not been good, but I know ICUM, and I'm sure when it is the tenor of Ivan, he will try to tell you what his outfit has been doing to restore confidence back into the industry. What I can say is that there was a problem in the transitional time. Actually, some of us we are not against the new system that government is bringing. It's the government that says that the system that were there are not reaping the kind of needed revenue that they want. And they were bringing single window or ICUM end-to-end system that was coming to replace the new regime, and it will give us more revenue according to what the government were appealing to us. We have asked questions what happened, and they are asking GCnet to go, which has a contract that is running to 2023. And why are you asking West Blue to go when they have a contract running to December? When we have invested and we are on paperless, why at this point? And then when the president came to the State of the Nation address in this year, February, and made it to understand how robust after the paperless implementation, the amount of revenue that is raking from the port. And so we ask, can't the government give a little bit restraint to the ICUMS to go under proper, piloting? Because I actually proposed somewhere early this year, February, I proposed that there was a need for government to allow the Unipass system to run parallel. That's why the people started picking that word parallel. And they asked me to explain why do I say parallel. And I said parallel because these people have been here, they have invested and reinvested and trained and retrained the agents, and they were comfortable, they were conversant with their system. This was a new system that we are bringing. We need to train and retrain, that is the ICUMS. They need to give more training to the agents to actually make good use of the system, so before they can completely take over. So I propose that let them start on piloting, especially Temaport, because what we were hearing from Takoradi, I see that Takoradi volume, in terms of volumes, cannot be compared to Temaport. When they came to airport, I see it in terms of volumes cannot be compared to Temaport. So in the whole Ghana, Temaport is our baby, our golden egg. So we cannot toil with what is happening in Temaport. So I propose that, one, can the ICUM begin with piloting on cars, because that is non-perishable cargo. Maybe after cars, they will see the teething problem that we are getting now. Then they will move on to maybe the road, they will add on maybe those who clear foes. Then after 4th, then maybe they can add our brothers and sisters, those who clear spare parts. Then 3rd month to 4th month, then they continue to be add on. Then you get to add on the homogeneous product.
Okay.
And the frozen food that is easily can be perishable. Okay. So these were some of the things. So I was expecting that. And of course, we have seen, not that, I think we learned from our previous experience. 28th April to 29th to 30th April, you remember what happened at the port when the minister of, the senior minister gave the directive that ICUMS should take over from the port. There was a completely shut down. And some of us raised the issues, and the government appealed to GCNet and was able to open, whilst they will give the opportunity for ICUMS to prepare and take over from them.
So you've raised a particular issue that I want to bring Novan in on, so that we can deal with that. Then we can deal with the subsequent issues. Novan, Mr. Wigobit here, who represents the Importers and Exporters Association, is raising the concern about problematic transitioning from what used to be GCNet to ICUMS. He's saying that the association actually indicated this could have been done on a piloted basis, so that you do it gradually, so you have a gradual implementation of the takeover. Why did that not happen? And ideally, everything new should ideally go through some sort of piloting.
Thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. And let me say that when it comes to this particular question that you are asking, for us at Ghana Link Network Services, who are the technical providers for the new system, I think that we are very much concerned in ensuring that all the teething problems or the challenges that have come up, over the period are resolved. And my good friend, I won't go bit, know that we've been working around the clock, all the challenges we've had. In fact, the freight forwarders have brought together to us a lot of issues that they are facing, and we are dealing with it. When it comes to migration, of course, that's a government policy that has to deal with the GRA, who are, the ones government has given the power in terms of collection of revenues across the country for them. And you would admit that I might not be able to speak to policy issues. And so with that one, I think that we have to talk to the authorities in that regard. But I want to assure Samson Awingobit and then all importers and exporters, and also our friends and our brothers, our aunties, the clearing agents, that all the challenges, they brought some to my attention yesterday. I was speaking to the GIF president who raised certain issues. In fact, personally, I've had people send me their BOEs that they said they had put into the system and had not been processed yet. That is because there are a lot of BOEs that the STSB are working on, and day in and day out, they try to, try and then deal with the backlog that they have. And Auntie Annabelle was the head of that unit. They're doing very well together with Mr. Kisi, and then also, I think, Mr. Kotu.
If I could just interrupt you briefly. You indicated that some problems have been reported to you and you've dealt with them. What's the...
We are in the process. Some have been dealt with.
I just want you to give me the main theme, the theme running through these problems that have been reported to you. What kind of problems are these?
Okay, so some few of the challenges has to do with BOEs. I didn't indicate that they have put into the system that haven't come out yet. Because don't forget that when you start the process and you put in your BOEs, it has to go to the STBS, which
What's
is
BOE, by the way?
Customs Technical Support Bureau. And so they do the evaluation and then all the classification and those things, and then they would intend, work on it, and then you can get it back, and then you move on to the next stage. So there are stages that you need to go through. I think that we don't have much time if we have to go through all the stages that we have. And so I'm saying that, I'll just give you an example that these things have been dealt with. There was a backlog of fresh BOEs. And don't forget also that you realize that what is important is that we all as stakeholders at this point are looking at how do we ensure that work is done at the ports and it goes on as it is. Because, issues of rent and demurrage and all those things have been raised, but that is also another policy issue which I cannot deal with, or I mean Ghana Link cannot deal with. But I know, and yesterday, even in my discussion with the GIFT president, we know that they've written letters to the government, especially to the Ministry of Trade and the GRA, and they are in some kind of discussions to see how that can be dealt with for them, especially for the importers, the exporters, and the clearing agents. Because remember that when an importer gives money to the clearing agent to get his goods out, what he's waiting for is that his goods comes out. And so when there's rent and demurrages, sometimes, a lot of the time, you have to see to that has to be paid for by the clearing agent. And this is not something that anybody wants to
do. Obviously, so let me come back to the studio with Mr. Wingobet on the issues that you raised. He says that some of these issues are not for Ghana Link necessarily to tackle. As an association, you have an opportunity to be able to engage government with the proposals that you have. Did you, and what did they say?
Let me tell you, let me help to educate your listeners. The point is that at the time Ghana Link was coming to start on the 1st of June, what they ought to have done, and Customs should have advised the sector minister in this direction. That look, from on the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st of May, people had processed on the GCNet platform or the GCMS. So whether they've reached 30% about exit, they've reached 50% about exit, or even some have paid duty and sent for clearance for compliance, which is the STV, the Custom Technical Bureau Center in the Custom Office, to allocate an examination officer for them to go to the terminal like MPS like this to pick their box from there. Box means the goods from there. What the government ought to have done, or what Customs were supposed to do, was supposed to tell the government that let all those who process on the GCNet platform to continue to exit there. On the 1st, anybody who have not done whether 10%, whether 1% entry on the GCNet system, let those people begin doing BOE, bill of entry, on the new system. Okay, so now,
let's take this conversation a bit forward, because we moved on from the point where they did not do what you're saying they should have done. Right now,
that was what brought that charge at the log room.
It's okay. Because I want to understand what ought to be done right now to make the system smooth and flawless so that you can do your work easily.
Well, I strongly want to appeal to ICUMS system that every minute, every now, they need to update us, especially we the key stakeholders, how many BOE has gone through their system. How many have they, if they paid it, because I get complaints that people paid it, if people even send the BOEs, it goes through the ICUMS system, coming back to them for them to know how much is the duty that they're supposed to pay. They are not getting it. Some are also saying that
usually, how long will it take for you to get that feedback?
Oh, I think within the day you should have it.
Within a day. Even
sometimes within some hours, about 4 hours. If you send the BOE on the GCNet platform, within some hours you should get it.
You should get it. But yes, right now, what's happening? What's the situation right now? When you send it, how long does it take for you to get it?
Now, I think it's because of, you see, there's a problem, the technical problem relating to the matching of the manifest. Because they are doing virtually, what do you call it, manual matching. Okay. So the declarer must match with the manifest, but it used to be done electronically. So what the problem now is, they have to work. ICUMS has to work with the shipping lines to properly integrate it, properly automate it, so that when they send a manifest to ICUMS system and an agent is doing BOE, it can easily match and custom can easily come out with the values. So it's about integration, I think, and then proper automation of the ICUMS system that we are looking forward from now.
Integration and proper automation.
Yes, so they have to give us update. Okay, we'll be able to successfully integrate our system with the shipping lines. We'll be able to receive manifests from the shipping lines and put it into our system, and our system now, if you do BOE, automatically epict. Okay. If duties, when you send for values, the values get to you, there's a button where you see the duty, it's okay, I accept the value or I reject the value. People, what we are getting is that bottom two is not populating. And of course, the worst scenario too is the PIN numbers that people, because GCNet has a contract with the government. So if you are going to, if you have a complaint today, or if you want to register a complaint today, and you get to Register General, first thing you have to get the tin. The tin is being produced through the GCNet system. Okay. So I don't know whether they have, ICUMS also have a way of generating tin numbers or not. Because what has happened is that those who have previous tin numbers were having problems. In the first
because what, the tin wasn't being accepted.
The tin, you pay your duty. You pay your duty according to you use the tin number to pay the duty.
To pay the duty. And he said that those who have the tin are not getting through the system because why?
They were having a problem, and I'm sure if Novan is still on the line,
yeah,
he'll be able to explain to you how far they went with the tin.
Let me get that clarification, Novan. He's talking about properly integrating the system with the shipping lines, etc., and terminals, and then automating that. But first of all, explain to us what happened with the tin numbers. Why is it that people who have worked previously with people who had tin numbers that they had previously worked with are unable to, you know, or are facing problems trying to use the same tin number to process their document?
Gifty, I think when it comes to the issue of the tin, I can assure Mr. Ngobe that that has been resolved. And then there are some few also that there are challenges.
I just want to understand, Ms. Hayford, what happened? Why was it giving them problems, and how has it been resolved? Just so we understand.
Yeah, that is what I'm saying. That I mean, if we want to look at the challenges, we've moved on from there, and then we've got into, you know, the stage where that has been resolved. And in fact, this happened last week. And I'm saying that there might be some few people who are still or may be having challenges with the tin numbers, and that is also being looked at. These are systems, and you cannot tell what can happen at any point in time. You can have system downtimes and all that. And so when it comes to the tin issue, that has been looked at and is, you know, being worked on. And I know that largely a lot of them have been worked on. Because remember that if you don't put your tin for it to populate, you can't even continue and do your BOE and the rest. And I think that he himself has mentioned to us that, of course, now we've been able to, people are able to do their BOEs. The other challenge which he raised and which I've listened to him had to do with the fact that they want updates on how many BOEs have gone through or have been processed in the system. And that was what I was talking about, the CTSB, which is the Customs Technical Support Bureau. And this is the place where valuations and all those things are done. In fact, there was a huge backlog. A lot have been put in the system, and they have been working, I mean, around the clock.
Okay, let him make the point.
And working very hard to ensure that most of these can come out and allow importers to be able to move on and go and do the payments. So I can assure him that the updates that he's looking for, let me just say to Mr. Awungobet, the update he's looking for has been noted, and obviously we will try and make sure that people are updated on what is happening.
I think that he had a quick intervention on that. Has that been answered in terms of...
Ivan, I'm sure you are very much aware that with the new system, we are going to go away from compliance.
Yes.
So if you are saying CSTB, you are still talking of compliance. Am I right? Classification and evaluation, we are going out of that.
No, but you know that obviously the systems also have some human interventions, which includes the customs people still being able to check, you understand, in the system when you do your BOEs. So that's how come, you know, you'll be able to accept the values or you decline the values.
That's classification, but compliance is not going to be, it's not part of your system, isn't it?
I think that when I said what they're doing, if I made a statement that is wrong, please, I will say that, okay, I take that back. But then you know very well that valuations will be checked by the customs officials. And then when it comes and they tell you, okay, this is the duties that you're going to pay, what will happen is that you either accept or reject, and it moves to the next stage. If you accept, then you move on to go and do your payment. If you don't accept, then what happens is that, you know, we go to the next stage where the next officer would also take a look at it and then get back to you on that. So I mean, just as you're saying, these BOEs, and I can assure you, Mr. Awungobet, that what you've asked for in terms of trying to get the update daily, why not? since you've raised this, I'm going to talk to the my bosses, people who are working on the ICUMS. We'll make sure that all these updates will come daily so that at least we all will be on the same page.
Okay, great way to use that feedback. But he raised also a concern about properly automating and integrating the systems
with
so
the
that
terminals and MPS and then the shipping lines
and all of that, so that there's a seamless, you know, way of doing their work. It flows naturally. How about that?
Okay, so we are integrated with all these terminals, and I think that Mr. Ngobit mentioned that, you know, prior to the first, a lot of people had processed their BOEs in the old system, and it meant that since that system has gone off, that is why there are challenges in some of our brothers and sisters unable to clear their goods, or they are facing challenges in clearing all that. In fact, there is a letter that was written by the sector commander, which is Mr. Joseph Eduche. And if you permit me, I will just go through quickly.
If you can just take the relevant sentence.
Portions of the letter, portions of that letter. It's a very short letter. So
yes,
it says that the sector's commander's attention has been drawn to the frustrations faced by clients at some shipping lines in respect to the release of their cargoes. Please kindly inform your members to go ahead to release cargoes and then send email to info.icums.gra.gov.gh. This directive applies to only the GCNet BOE. So that is because, you know, the data, when it was shut, we don't have that data. And of course, it meant that, you know, some other means had to be looked at in making sure that people can clear their goods. Obviously, I do admit that might process that might have a challenge on the system where it might not go as fast as it has to be. But I can assure you that when we are able to move from this phase and we clear all those BOEs, you know, which had gone through the old system, then with this new system that we have, people will be able to go through the end-to-end system and be able to clear their goods as far as, you know, in the shortest possible time as they have to. This is a new system. Challenges will come. I want to plead with all clearing agents, importers and exporters, that you may have to bear with us. We are doing all we can. We're working around the clock, day in and day out, during the day, in the evenings. The technical teams are working. All the challenges that they've raised daily are being looked at. And of course, I'm sure that by the close of this week, whilst we're going into the next week, all the challenges that are being raised and the very issues they are pointing out, which will help make their work easier, will be resolved.
Very well.
To ensure that
you've made that point. You've made that point about 6 times already. So I appreciate that. From a PR's perspective, you'd have to. But I just have a quick one I want to put in before I take Mr. Ngobet's final word. We learned yesterday, for most of the newspapers reported, that ICUMS rakes in over 177 million cedis at the Tema port. It says that we made 177 million. How different is the amount from what we would have made previously from the other system? And of course, how did you make this money? How did ICUMS make this money?
Gifty, I think that this is data that has been put out there, and people clear goods at the port. And you're talking of imports. You are not separating others from the other. Okay. So the whatever kind of import, and we know that at the port, some people pay 500,000, 700,000, sometimes 1 million, depending on which products you are bringing in. So this has to do, and you, in that same story, if you recall, you also saw the fact that over 4,700 BOEs had been processed. And when I say processed, it means that they have been processed. It's now that the agents are going to get these and then go and do payment. Okay. And so this is data that is available that can be shared. You know, I'm sure that when Mr. Ngobet wants to see the data, why not? It can be shared.
All right, I'll look forward to that. And thank you very much for joining us, Novan Akwahefa. He's a PR manager for Ghana Link Network. Thank you. Mr. Ngobet, your final words as we move on.
Novan is appealing to us, noted. But the point here is that the mortgages and rent, will the government absorb it? Because the government should learn a lesson from. On the 28th, 29th, 30th of April, we all saw this. And the importers, at the end of the day, we asked questions. who was going to pay the demurrages. The Minister of Trade,
delays caused by
at that time, that's the first changeover.
Yeah.
The government, Minister of Trade promised that they were going to come back to us. They never came back. Then the second directive came again. Now people have gone to demurrage for 4 or 5 days for the past week, and then this week too we are in the week. I can tell you that they are trying their best, but the demurrage and the rent is what we are looking at.
So that's
because
where the
that is going to be
at the moment.
That's going to be the cost buried to the final consumer. And indeed, they should not be using this data, because 1 week we cannot use. For me, I've told all the media houses, I cannot use 1 week to say Unipass has been successful. It can never. And so these figures that they are putting out there, if I were to be them, I would rather be talking to stakeholders like me, how they are trying to, within this week and next week, how robust the system will be, than to tell you that 4,000 had gone through 177 million Ghana cedis has been raked from the port when we have the problems in the port. So please, no one, if you have the opportunity and your mandate, make sure that at least try to tell us how far, what is 60% being processed, and then you take over the port completely, or you still have a challenge. Talk to us about your challenges, and don't talk to us about the success. We will come to talk about the success, because we are the users, we are the key stakeholders, so we should be able to come and talk about your success.
Thank you. Samson Awengowit is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association. They're helping us with that information from the ports. That story is also on myjoyonline.com. If you're a concerned member of that association, you want to take a look at that story. Thank you very much for coming once again.
Thank you very much.
Cardi is up next with Showbiz.